Okay, so I'm going to speak for about, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes, and I'm just going to be talking a little bit about what it could look like or what it might involve if we reopen the centre. So we've been through quite a journey, really, haven't we, the last few months. It's certainly this hasn't been something that's ever happened in my lifetime. And it feels like this, we're now in a different kind of phase. It almost feels a bit like a bardo to me. We've come out of this kind of lockdown phase that felt quite kind of strict and you knew where you were at. And now we're in this phase where, I don't know about you, but I don't quite know where I'm at. I'm not quite sure, exactly what I should be doing in the current situation. So it feels a bit disorientating on one level. Anyway, it seems things are starting to open up. Things are starting to get back to something as they were. Whatever that means to some extent. And from the 4th of July, so only a few days ago, places of worship were allowed to open up again, but with certain restrictions. And those restrictions were mainly around the numbers of people that could attend, the social distancing rules within the building, sort of cleaning regimes, so cleaning surfaces and so forth, and increased hygiene, so things like, hand washing, face coverings, all those sorts of things. They're all sort of things we've got to think about if we're looking to reopen the centre. And we've been meeting the trustees and mitra conveners have been meeting quite frequently. So initially it was to kind of get things going really and allowing Sangha nights and various other activities to happen online. And more recently, we've started to look at what it would look like to open the centre and what that would involve. And obviously we need to put in place certain measures to do that. But what we're really keen to know is what you guys think, what the Sangha think about how they'd feel about reusing the centre, bearing in mind those restrictions. And I think that's what this evening's about really, is to kind of get a sense of how you feel about that. Now, there'll be some of you that this won't be appropriate for, who for good reason deciding to stay at home, deciding to self-isolate and whatever. But for the centre to reopen, we need to put in, and I'll just give you an example of some of the measures that we need to put in place, just to give you a kind of flavour. And as I say, these are only guidelines. They're not sort of laws or rules, but they're guidelines that the government have come out with and that we've looked at. So we felt the building would need to operate a one-way system. So obviously we'd probably come in through the main entrance and maybe going out through the library. We'd need to have hand sanitising upon entering and upon leaving the building. We'd have to keep social distancing of at least 2 metres or 1 metre with risk mitigation. So basically we'd have to really limit the numbers of people that could use the building. And Vajrapriya did a little exercise earlier in the building about working out the kind of maximum numbers that we could use. And he came up with this little table he sent me, which was really clever. He's very good like that. And basically in the shrine room, if we were following 2 metre social distancing, we could have about 15 people plus the person leading. We could have about 6 people in a circle in the reception area, and we could have about 3 or 4 people in the library. So that gives a kind of flavour of numbers, if you like. But one issue is around socialising. And it's a bit unclear right now, but it does seem as though the model for a religious service is larger than 6 people. So if you've got more than 6 people, that they're asking you not to socialise. And I was quite struck by this. I was quite shocked, actually. So if you're gathering in more than 6 people in a religious building, they're saying not to socialise. So you're going in, you're doing whatever you're doing, and then you're going home. Now that might well loosen up, but that's the guideline at the moment. We'd probably have to put in place some kind of a booking system to enable all this to happen, and maybe limit activities to say 1 per day once we got going. And obviously in terms of cleaning, we'd have to have some kind of cleaning regime. So obviously every time the building's used, it would have to be cleaned. And then of course there's this chanting one that was I find it quite bizarre. So you're not allowed to chant or sing or shout when you're in your service. So hence Vajrapriya and I were trying out, and it was very funny when Vajradevi was chanting the refuges and precepts. I was trying really hard to say them, and Vajrapriya kept slipping into a little chant because we're so used to chanting them, so it felt quite bizarre. Anyway, so this is all doable. What we're saying, I think what we've said is that we can do all this. We can put all this in place. But I think it's obviously going to affect how we use the centre. It's going to really affect how we interact with each other and the quality of that interaction. So in a way, it'd be really helpful for us to know how you guys feel about this. Whether you're keen to come back with these certain restrictions in place. And as I say, I suspect they're going to get less strict as time goes on. That's my sense, but you don't know. Or whether you prefer to wait until things are easier, things are more back to sort of so-called normal or how they used to be. But bearing in mind, I think it could be some time before some of these measures go away. So I think certain things are going to be with us for quite a long time, is my sense. Who knows how long? So another thing I think is that I wanted to mention is I think we've all really appreciated and benefited from the activities that have been available online during this lockdown period. So there's events that we've put on here in Shrewsbury. So we've done Sangha nights, we've had study groups, we've had Silver Sangha, we've had meditations, we've had all sorts of things. And throughout the Triratna world, there's been loads of things going on. From retreats, Vajradevi's just led a retreat that I heard was very successful with loads of people. And there's been quite a few of those happening throughout the Triratna world. And there's been meditations from people from different countries. And I personally have really benefited from that. So I'm very, very grateful for everything that's been put on. And so I think certain technologies have really come into their own during this lockdown period. I'm thinking in particular of Zoom. In particular, I've got my Zoom master next to me. So I think the whole Zoom thing, I'd never even heard the word Zoom. It was a pop song from the 90s. I didn't know anything about Zoom. And now it's kind of like everyone knows about Zoom and everyone's using Zoom. And it's fantastic, actually. I've been quite a convert. I was quite a cynic and quite a Luddite about some of this technology. And I think I've been won round to some extent. So the internet has allowed us to continue to meet as a Sangha from the comfort of our own homes. But I have to say, for me, it's not the same. It's been really useful, but it's no replacement for actual physical meeting up together. And I'd be interested to hear what people think about that. And perhaps going forward, we could look to incorporate both. So maybe we can have the centre being used again with people actually in the building, as well as the ability for people to tune in from their own homes. So that's a possibility. And I'm not going to go into the details of how we do that. I'm sure there's ways that can be done. But I'd just be interested to hear your thoughts on kind of those kind of ideas. So how we can best use this technology going forward. Because I think it's here to stay. And also just to say in terms of time scale, so as some of you may know, we had a bit of an accident here a few weeks ago where someone drove into our wall on the corner by the gate. And so that's all kind of leaned over. So we've got a builder hopefully coming in tomorrow who's going to repair that. But that's going to take a little bit of time, maybe a few weeks. So we were thinking of, one idea was to possibly run a pilot event and do that, say, in August, where we could just try it out, see what it's like. And maybe something like a study group, because maybe it would be simple to keep something quite small. And so maybe we could try that, see how it works, and then go from there. And it may be in September we could hold more events. We could possibly even hold a Sangha night. Who knows? Anything's possible. And some events may work better with the current restrictions than others. So I can imagine things like a meditation session or a study group might be quite straightforward, whereas a larger gathering like a festival day or Sangha night might be trickier. So those are the main thoughts, really. And so I thought I'd allow us quite a bit of time in discussion groups just to kind of talk this through. So maybe if we go into groups of, say, 4, and have about 20 minutes